A chord progression is basically the background chord sounds to any piece. It's that pattern of chords. And rock music, of course, has its own common chord progressions. These are four the most essential, I feel. We're going to be talking about the 1-4-5 progression, the 1-flat-7-4 progression, the 1-5-6-4 progression, and then lastly, the 1-4-5-4 progression. And not only am I going to tell you about the progression, I also have an example song to play for each. So let's get into this first progression. Okay, I want to mention something really quick before we get started. So if you don't know anything about chord progressions at all, I'm going to make sure to put like a little card that pops up, also a link in the description of a lesson that I recommend you watch first about building chord progressions so that you can understand what we're talking about today. Since I'm not going to start from the very beginning, I'm going to assume you kind of know a little bit about chord progressions already. Okay, the first progression we're talking about is the 1-4-5 progression, and this is particularly found in early rock, as well as classical music, romantic era music. Pretty much music from the beginning of time has used this progression, and early rock uses it as well, since early rock really is a branch off of blues and things like that. Also very prominent on the 1-4-5 progression. A piece that exemplifies this pretty well is La Bamba by Richie Valens. Now this is, like I mentioned, an early rock piece, so this isn't anything like AC/DC or anything like that. Okay, after the little intro here comes in the main part of the song, and we are in the key of A major on this one. So our 1-4-5 progression is going to be A major, then we're going to have D major, and then E major. And actually you can see that this progression starts right in the beginning here, A, D, E, D. So actually let me play that intro for you. Okay, so here's the intro with the 1-4-5 progression. So if I just play the chords by themselves, you can hear that simple progression. So 1, 4, 5, 4, then 1, 4, 5. So it just repeats that 1-4-5 over and over again during this piece. Once again, used in earlier rock. Let's get into a little bit more fun of a chord progression, which is this next one. Okay, this next progression is the 1-flat-7-4 progression, and some popular pieces you're going to find this in is Sweet Home Alabama and of course AC/DC, one of my favorites, Back in Black. So basically, quite simply, this progression, you build it on the first note of the scale, then you actually go to the 7th note of the scale and you flat it. So that's where that flat 7th comes in case you're not familiar with that. You're actually flatting the 7th and then building a major chord on that, and then of course we're going up to the 4th note of the scale like that. So let's take a look at Sweet Home Alabama. Okay, so here we have the opening to Sweet Home Alabama, and right in the opening you're going to be able to hear this progression. We're in the key of G on this one, so you have your one chord, and then flat 7 in this case will be that F major, and then the C major, which is your 4. So 1, flat 7, 4, and then here it uses the same progression in the beginning, where the main song starts. Whoops. So you can even hear this progression in the main part of the song. Just like that. So, and then it just kind of repeats throughout the whole piece. That's one thing you're going to find, that a lot of times when a piece, even a lot of modern pieces, when they pick a chord progression, they stick through it through a good part of the song. Now, if there's a chorus and things like that, they might change key then, but usually the intro and the main part of the song have the same kind of chord progression to help create the overall sound of the piece. So this one was the 1 flat 7 4 progression. All right, so this one's a little bit more of a contemporary chord progression. It's the 1 5 6 4 progression. And by the way, if you wonder why some of the Roman numerals are uppercase, some are lowercase, the uppercase ones signify a major chord, and the lowercase is a minor chord. So that 6 chord is actually going to be a minor in this case. And today, or for this one, we are looking at Hey Soul Sister. It looks like it was written by Pat Monahan, but I think there's another name that goes along with it as well. But let's take a look at this piece. So there is the 1 5 6 4 progression used in Hey Soul Sister, as well as a lot more contemporary rock, maybe also getting into the little bit of a pop realm on that one. Okay, next we're talking about the 1 4 5 4 progression, which is used in Wild Thing. Now this progression is pretty similar to the first one we talked about, 1 4 5, but this goes back to 4, 1 4 5, and then back to 4, which creates a little bit of a different kind of sound, although still very, very basic. All right, let's take a look at the piece we have here. All right, so taking a look at Wild Thing here, we're in the key of F this time, meaning our 1 chord is going to be an F chord, which we can hear right away. And then if you can take a look at they actually give us the lead sheet on this one. It says B flat, so that's going to be our 4 chord, which makes sense. That's what we're supposed to be going to. Then to the 5 chord, which is C major, and then back to that B flat. So you're going to constantly be hearing this kind of thing. Like that. So let me play the intro here for you. Yeah, let me kind of get the beginning, the whole beginning here. You make my wild thing. You make my heart sing. So that's where the beginning of the piece begins right there, and then it kind of repeats that same kind of progression over and over again. So there's a good example of that chord progression. All right, Okay, if you want to take what we learned in today's lesson into practice, what you need to do, I recommend 2 main things. One is look at the pieces you're currently working on, if they're rocks, tunes, and see if any of these chord progressions apply. Also, start looking through your music and figuring out what the chord progression is. This will really help you not only master your chord progressions, but be able to analyze the music you're playing a lot better. The main assignment I want you to take for this is I want you to actually play around with some of these chord progressions on the piano and see if you can begin to improvise with them. I like to do basically where I'm doing the chord progression with my left hand and a melody in my right. So if we're doing this 1 4 5 4 progression, we'll do it in the key of F just like Wild Thing was in. You know, I'm going to be playing the chord progression down here. And then I'm going to make up a melody up here. Just like that. And experiment with all the ones we went over today to see if you can come up with a tune in your right hand, chords with your left hand. This will also help solidify your knowledge of these chord progressions as well as being able to put them into actual practice, putting all your theory knowledge to use. So this is your little assignment for next time. Let me know how this works out in the comments. I would love to hear from you. Okay, if you like today's lesson and you want to learn more about playing chord progressions on the piano, I'm going to put a link to a wonderful playlist somewhere around me that will appear also in the description. as well for some great continued learning right here on YouTube. So I want to thank you for coming out again. This has been Tim from Lessons on the Web. I'll check you out for the next lesson. Thank you so much.